I'm not going to stand here and apologize for what I did. You had your duty. I had mine.
I still have my duty.
I know. And I know I'll probably go to prison. But I came back because of us. Because despite all that's happened, I still love you, Ben. I don't want to throw that away. Do you?
No.
Set a course for love.
Ah, yes. One of your earth emotions.
Glad I found you.
Let's get married.
Delete the wife.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Deep Space Love, the Star Trek podcast where a married Trekkie couple explore love in all its forms throughout the final frontier. I'm one of your hosts, Nicole.
I'm one of your other hosts, Joe.
Good to be back, Joe. Happy New Year.
Happy 2025. Happy-ish.
We'll see how happy it ends up being.
We shall see.
We had a rough start with some sickness going around, but
It's like still going around. Our kids have
Yeah.
been sick like continually, and we've been sick. I don't even know if you can hear my voice. I feel like it's always just like half here now.
you're just fine.
Okay, thank you.
But anyway, excited to start the year off with some podcasting.
Some Star Trek podcasting,
Star Trek
nonetheless.
podcasting particularly. And I'd like to bring in our guest now, if that sounds like a plan.
Great.
With us today, we have Derek Tyler Attico. Did I say that right?
You did.
All right. Derek is an award-winning author, essayist, photographer, and host of the podcast Soul of the Story. He's also the author of the best-selling Star Trek novel, The Autobiography of One Benjamin Sisko.
Welcome.
Welcome, Derek.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Nicole and Joe. This is going to be a lot of fun. When I got your email, I was like, oh, this is a great idea. Love and Deep Space Nine and Star Trek. So I'm eager to dive in. This is great. This is going to be fun.
Agreed. Yes. And I know you said maybe you didn't have them at the top of your mind, but we have a couple guest questions we just like to kind of start our guests out with to kind of break the ice a little bit. So the first one, it's probably an easy one, but why do you love Trek, since we're a love-based Star Trek podcast?
Oh my God. Okay, I'll give you like the quickest and easiest version. When I was a kid, like many of us, right? I was a kid watching Star Trek with my parents, with my mom, and I found that a lot of the ideals that my mom and my grandmom was teaching me was in Star Trek, and I fell away from it, like we all do. You grow up and you work and everything, and then I came back around to it, and now as an author, I find there's like these what I call the four pillars of Star Trek. Which are things that I try and have in my own life, which is hope, exploration, friendship, and science.
Oh, I love
Who
that.
doesn't love those four things or can't get around and agree with those four things? So those have always been in my life, I think partially because of Star Trek. So there you go.
Amazing. That is I loved that answer, actually. The four pillars. I'm going to write that down. All right. And then next we've got, they're kind of up to interpretation. So I've worded it as like, instead of favorite, what do you feel is your home base crew? Whether that's, comfort Trek or like, maybe it's the team that you'd love to like be a part of. I don't know. However you want to interpret that.
That's heavy. Well, the Deep Space Nine crew is just, they're really a really, if you go Deep Space Nine crew, like after season 4, so, you have Sisko at the helm,
Mm-hmm.
you have Kira and Worf and Bashir and Garrick and Odo. You're really covered for pretty much anything that you will encounter in life or any kind of trouble. So I think it would be the Deep Space Nine crew, and I'm not just saying that because I wrote the autobiography, but I think it's really the Deep Space Nine crew.
They're great. I mean, actually, we'll get into it when we talk about like the couple episodes that we just watched for today's recording. But like, even just beyond like that core like main crew, so to speak, like there's always a million guest stars on Deep Space Nine, and they're not like one offs. Like they're recurring characters, and they enrich it so much. And anyway, I won't overstep.
No, you're right.
that,
You're right.
but I'm just very excited. And the last question is also up to interpretation. It's like if you could sit down with a character, you know, whether it's like we kind of worded it as like a date, but you know, it could just be like, who would you want to sit down and like, you know, get lunch with or grab a coffee, or it could, if there's a character, you'd be like, yeah, it'd be really fun to go on a date, like a romantic date with that person. Like, however you want to interpret it, who would that character be?
Oh my gosh.
Hard hitters, right?
Okay, if it was a date, it would probably be, and I guess this is a little, selfish to say, it would probably be Twyla Scott. And
Alright.
she's in the autobiography, but she is in the last episode of season 1 of Next Gen Conspiracy. And
Mhm.
she's like this captain that we see. She's supposedly like the youngest woman or the youngest person actually to ever make captain in Starfleet. And we see her for like 5 minutes.
I know exactly who you're talking about. That we meet her in the cave.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, she's
right.
great. Yeah.
Right. And so I always loved that character, and I pulled her and did like a back end origin story for her in the autobiography.
Yeah.
So it would be her. If it was somebody to just have coffee with, and if I could have like lots of protection around, it would probably be Khan or right? I mean, just to, I know he'd be nuts, but just to like,
Yeah.
or Gary Mitchell.
Oh,
man.
interesting. Yeah. Just to
Right?
pick your brain, huh?
Right, because they're both like out there, but it would just be like to see like what makes them tick,
Oh yeah, you'd have stories to tell after that too.
Right, right.
Would not be boring, that's for sure.
Those are both great answers. Definitely unique ones. We haven't gotten either of those before.
It's what I love. I mean, I feel like there's so many characters in Trek that like I feel like everyone has a different answer, and I just feel like it's a really cool like jumping off point for.
I also love that scene in Conspiracy though when we do meet that little group of captains. Like I feel like it just like hints at this like web of things that's like going on, and we didn't see as much of them probably because of budget. We also have that like was it a Bolian, right? The blue guy, the Bolian captain. Like that was really cool.
Yep.
I want to know more about all of them.
And you can find out about Twyla if you read the
Go in your book. That's right. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about like, this is not like our normal guest questions, but kind of about like your writing journey and like the book itself. So we want to like, encourage people to read it, of course. But
right.
So I was kind of prepped for this podcast. I actually listened to some interviews that you had done on other podcasts. And I heard you so you got your start in Trek writing with the Strange New Worlds writing contest.
That's right.
But I heard a story you told that your first like actual like big writing endeavor was actually a Star Wars script. Is that right?
That's right. That's right. Wow, you did your homework. Wow.
I did. So
that's great.
I want to know what kind of just the general like base premise of your Star Wars script was.
Man, you're the first person to ask. That's nuts. I'll tell you what's nuts about that. So I was all of like 16, 17. I wrote that script. And my English gave it to my English teacher to like, check it for grammar and everything like that. And she entered it into unbeknownst to me, she reached out to my mom, entered it into a contest for the Dramatists Guild of America. They picked 12 screenplays across America from high school students out of 12,000.
Wow.
And so mine was one of the 12. In the script, oddly enough, okay, check this out. And this is like, I'm dating myself, but this is like right after I think like Jedi came out, or right before Jedi came out. And in the script, it's like years after Luke and everybody, and the Force is like more mythology than actual practice. And people are like, "Oh, that's just like hocus pocus. It wasn't ever real. It never really ever happened." And it's like a political, the politicalization, the Empire and the Alliance have pretty much molded and merged into one entity. And these kids find this like casket but it's a clone casket. And so this was before, I wrote this actually before the prequels. So it was a clone casket, and it had Anakin Skywalker before it was played. I even knew it was going to be played by Hayden, and it was Anakin Skywalker. But I didn't know he was a good guy at the time. So they open it up, and they basically find Anakin Skywalker, who is, dark.
Mhm.
And he's like, oh man, nobody knows what about the past, so this is ripe for the picking. And he basically starts to like wipe out everything. But
Whoa.
these kids are attuned with the Force, and they go and try and stop him.
Ooh, fascinating.
That's wow. That sounds really like
That does sound cool.
Right?
Yeah,
17.
I like that. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
That is awesome. So, do you still have that sitting around?
I got it. I got the original pages somewhere. I mean, they're like, yellowed and crinkly,
Oh, I'm
and
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I got 'em
digitize
somewhere.
that and
Yeah,
preserve
right?
it. That's
Put that out there,
awesome.
right?
Yeah, I would like. I've always wanted to like write a Star Wars, novel or even touch anything like Lucasfilm would be like fantastic, So
Oh, yeah.
maybe one day,
I mean, you might be on your way there with the Star Trek writing too.
right?
You could just jump over. Yeah.
I know Star Wars actually better than I know Star Trek, which is crazy to say,
Wow.
but yeah, that's true. So
We love both Star franchises here.
right.
Yeah.
You're a household of both, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
That's good. That's good. Same.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So-
Thank you for asking.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about the book, the autobiography of Benjamin Sisko. I think that there's like a framing device with it because we leave him at the end where he's like he goes in the celestial temple,
Right.
and I guess if anyone hasn't read this hopefully this isn't too much of a spoiler. If you haven't read it, you could skip ahead, of course. But
No, it's cool.
he's sending a transmission about his life from the celestial temple to Jake to publish, and I think that was just like I think there's a really clever way to kind of make this happen.
Right.
So was it a challenge for you to be like, okay, so he's not corporeally present, how am I going to do this? Or were you kind of yeah, it's going to be a transmission to Jake, and with that was just was that a challenge for you to kind of come up with that idea of how to actually write this?
Well, that's a great question, Joe, and that was one of the reasons, not all of it, but that was one of the reasons why the actual autobiography had been delayed, because Titan was like, well, this guy is in a celestial temple, so how are we going to do that? So when I got the opportunity to write this, and I was speaking to George Sanderson, the chief editor at Titan, the idea then was to do it through Jake, and it was going to be Jake's autobiography, and then Jake talking about his life, he would talk about his father. And I was like, oh, that's great, because in the future Jake writes a book called Anselm, and I'm like, okay, that's great. But I think the other 4 autobiographies have been great. They've been in the voices of the captain. We can stick with that, if we do it this way. And my idea to him was look, it's not unusual in human history, in human religion, in human mythology, for the gods to speak to man, whether in mythology or in religion, the burning bush or Zeus,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, so a transmission from the wormhole isn't really that hard to for us to wrap our heads around when you start thinking about it like that. And I'm steeped in mythology, I'm steeped in religion, I was raised religious. So it was that would be the framing. And I think that was the thing that got me the gig,
Yeah, I love that. I think that's really cool. And I think having Jake be the writer of it too, just works with the character too. I
Perfect.
think that's really fun.
Right.
Was it a challenge then so we see Sisko throughout this time on Deep Space Nine, but young Sisko, to find the right voice to write for that character?
Oh God, yeah. That was a challenge. Well, the book has 3 openings.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a challenge, right? Because it has, and I don't think that's much of a spoiler. It opens on the station, then it opens with Jake, and then it opens with Sisko. So it has 3 openings, and I was scared that people would be like, "Oh, when is it going to start?" But it's that. And then it was trying to figure out how to write a young Benjamin Sisko. And the whole time I'm writing, you sign an NDA, so you can't really talk to anyone about it. I'm writing in a little bubble, right?
Mm.
And I knew I had gotten it when, after the book came out, a fan contacted me and said to me, I was reading the book and I really didn't like it because it didn't sound like Sisko in his early years. And then the fan tells me, and then I realized the reason it didn't was because he wasn't there yet, because he's a kid and he's maturing. And then the more I read, this is what the fan was saying, the more that they read, they realized it sounded more like the Benjamin Sisko they knew. And I was like, yes, yes. Because that's who we are in life. We don't, you know, Derek Attico now or Nicole and Joe now is not who you both were as kids. I mean, but I think the elements of who you were are with you now, and or hopefully, right, and vice versa. So I had to try and figure out how to do that, kind of like backwards engineer
Yeah.
Benjamin Sisko.
Yeah, great answer. I like that. Was there, so like with that, with like creating that backstory and like kind of figuring out who he was and how he becomes who he is, was there something that you were like really, maybe one thing that you're really excited to like have created for this canon?
The two things I think, well, the first and the most important was family, right? Because I didn't know. You're absolutely right. I was like, well, how am I going to do this? How is this going to go? And so I started looking at elements of the show, and what really spoke to me a lot was the relationship, of course, between Ben and Jake, but in some ways more than that was the relationship of Joseph Sisko,
Yeah.
because Joseph opened up so many doors for me. Um, that's three generations of Siskos, right? And then I was like, well, Joseph doesn't like transporters. He doesn't like technology. He has a restaurant in New Orleans. They're from New Orleans, Louisiana. And then I started to think about that, and I started to think about like Mr. Gene Roddenberry and what he wanted to do with Star Trek. And I was like, oh man, there's so much opportunity here to just talk about Star Trek and that universe and World War III in that universe and where Earth is, because we see a lot of Star Trek from the point of view of like Starfleet and the Federation and the ships.
Yeah.
But the average everyday people living in the 24th century, we don't see a lot of that. And I realized this was an opportunity to do that. So I started creating the family, and I went back and created like Ben's grandparents, so actually Joseph's parents. So it became autobiographical for Joseph as well, and for the whole Sisko family. And in that, once I did that, I really realized I had a really good handle on what this book would be, what I thought it should be for the character and for everybody.
Wow. Yeah, that's really cool. I like that a lot. Last question about the book, and then we'll go on to our topic of the podcast. But another interview that I read from you, and I think I want to say this was in Trek movie, but you talked about so in the book, like you talk about how like the poem "Life Doesn't Frighten Me" is really important to Sisko personally,
Right.
and you mentioned in the interview that that's kind of inspired on how like a certain poem was influential to you growing up as well. I just wonder if you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. So my mom gave me a poem when I was a kid, "If" by Kipling.
Yeah.
And it's around here somewhere. I have the actual old version of it. And I don't know, I mean, I was writing this thing and I was like almost finished. If I'm being really honest with you, I was almost finished with his childhood. And I had some personal stuff, family stuff going on. And so I would look at what my mom gave me, if you can keep your head when all those about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, then my son, you're a man. That's like one of the first stanzas in the poem.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wouldn't it be nice if Ben had something that he could, that his mother gave him and that he could look back on later in life? So then I went back and I inserted that into the text. And I made that a throw line throughout the whole book, and it felt right. It wasn't like it wasn't like to satisfy or gratify my ego. I felt was necessary for it just felt necessary for the character, you know,
Mhm.
and yeah, and a lot of people identified with that, you know, so
Mhm.
I'm thankful that they did, and it was a very personal thing, but I think it was a good decision to do, yeah.
Yeah, I like how you said that. How kind of like you like weaves like a thread like throughout his life, like
Yeah.
that connective tissue. I think that's really it's a really cool element to the story.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, thank you for like making such a cool thing and like answering those questions for us. So we appreciate it.
of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, let's move into kind of what we're talking about today. But before, real quick,
Oh, I was
before
gonna
we
say,
do that, I have a quick segment I like to do called the Trek Check, where I usually just bring up like news items in the Star Trek world, and there isn't a whole lot. I know we got Section 31 coming out soon, which will probably be big news soon, but we recently had John Billingsley on in our previous episode, and we plugged the Trek Talks coming up,
Yes.
which I wanted to mention that those are currently postponed. Were you taking part of that too, Derek?
I am with
Yeah.
with the other two authors of the autobiography, but
Yeah.
of the other autobiographies. But yeah, because of the fires, the
Yeah.
insane, crazy fire, and so many people have lost their homes. You know, one of the authors, I believe, of the Trek autobiographies of Kirk and I think Picard, David
Mm.
A. Goodman, I believe he lost his home.
Oh, that's
It's terrible.
Which
awful.
is just nuts. You know, it's not just celebrities. It's just
Yeah.
everyone that's losing. It's just crazy. It's just,
Ex-
it's, you know, and we all need to like do anything we can for these people, because it's, you know, I can imagine losing, you know, my home is, you know, where you go to lay your head every day and it's just gone. So
Exactly.
yeah.
So, needless to say, it makes sense that it's postponed, and we hope that they're able to like reschedule something, of course. But like, just kind of sending our thoughts and whatever we can to the folks down there for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The other item I had on a more fun playing field is just that Lower Decks ended. We haven't gotten a chance to like
Is
regroup that.
fun or is it sad? Also,
It's also sad. It is also sad, but it's fun. It was a fun show.
it was good.
Last time we were on the
exit.
podcast, we just talked about, I think it was like the halfway point last time we talked, but we were able to still watch the last few episodes. We'd saved them. We watched them like 4 together. So that was really fun to finally like get through that. And fortunately, but Derek, were you following it? Lower Decks?
Oh yeah. Well, I have to. No, I don't have to. But I do. But yeah, of course. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
Star Trek. Yeah.
I know.
Absolutely.
You know, it was and I think that we're planning to do like a full-on episode, maybe like recouping the Lower Decks, or just recovering from it, talking more about it. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Recovering from its end.
Yeah, recovering from its end. We'll dig it deep, but I just wanted to share like our thoughts. Like I loved it. I loved the final season. I think there were some elements where I was like, it was a little slow going, but like those last, like the back half was just like banger after banger.
Oh yeah, they're really good. Yeah. Really good. Can I offer something in the news today?
Yes.
Today is the 30th anniversary of the premiere of Star Trek Voyager.
Oh my gosh, yeah, how did I miss that one? That's right. It is actually today that we're recording this.
Yeah. So there you go. That's a good one.
There we go. Thanks
I
for
love when guests contribute.
That makes me happy, yeah.
Yes. It just goes to show that not one person can have all of the Trek news, which is great.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
So
democratize the Trek news right here. Yeah. Anyway, that's the Trek check for today.
Computer, status report. What the hell was that?
We are talking about Deep Space Nine, mainly. The romance angle that we're going to cover today is Ben Sisko and Kasidy Yates, one of the bigger romances I think that flows throughout most of the series. We've talked about a few others in the past, but wanted to just kind of dig into these guys specifically because I think that, especially given that Derek, you wrote a lot about Ben Sisko himself and bring some insights to these characters, and we'll talk about Love and Deep Space Nine on the whole as well. But just to kind of give a little bit of background, like Kasidy Yates was first introduced in, I think the 3rd season it was, but Jake introduced him because he wanted his dad to meet somebody who also equally loved baseball, which is kind of a fun introduction. And they, which I think I had this weird fun fact. Oh yeah, her younger brother played for the Pike City Pioneers on Cestus 3.
On Cestus 3, that's right.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah. But Nicole and I picked out like 2 of the episodes that I think are some of our favorite like Ben Sisko Kasidy moments. We talked about season
pivotal moment.
pretty pivotal. Season 4 is For the Cause, and season 7's Till Death Do Us Part.
Mm.
And we rewatched those over the past couple nights. But I wanted to ask you, Derek, right away. Did you have any like Kasidy Ben and Kasidy moments that really stick out to you? Maybe like outside of those.
Oh wow. Okay, this is gonna put me on the spot. There's a moment. It might be. It's not For the Cause. It might be Till Death Do Us Part. It's definitely 7th season. And there's a moment, and it kind of involves. It's a Kasidy moment, but she's not really in it.
Mhm.
It involves Martok and Sisko, and Sisko and Cassie have just gotten married, and so Martok is like, oh, this is going to be an interesting relationship. This is going to be a struggle because marriage is not always basically Martok is telling him marriage is not always easy. It's a struggle. It's a battle. Because they're Klingons, and I think if I remember correctly, Kasidy tries to cook Ben's peppers.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And he's like, what are you doing? You don't cook. And she's like, I know, but I was trying to make sure, you know? And though they start to have this little thing back and forth. And it's interesting to see like just the personal relationship of the starting of a married life.
Mm-hmm.
And Martok is like, yeah, this is what you're gonna go through, basically, but you'll get there, kind of a thing. And I really like that because it felt genuine, it felt authentic,
Agreed. And I think I think we'll get into it a little bit, but I feel like that's what really is like cool about this relationship is I feel like there's so many like really interesting, genuine moments that it doesn't feel like perfect in a lot of ways. Like there are a lot of like the missteps that both of them make, but then they like work together to make it work. And I think that's really cool.
I think they defy a lot of odds.
They
too.
do.
Oh yeah.
Like literally, like it's at the end there. But
yeah.
So first one we watched the other day was For the Cause, which I think is a top tier episode. It's one of my favorites.
Indeed.
And Nicole, why don't you talk for a little bit? What'd you think of that one?
I mean, it's an amazing episode. I think like we're gonna focus on Sisko and Kasidy, Ben and Kasidy, but like I think the struggle between them and like kind of the realization that Sisko's having about what Kasidy's doing and just the whole role of the Maquis in Star Trek and in Deep Space Nine in particular, and then Eddington's defection, and
right.
It's all interwoven so well, like, setting up. I mean, it's not that Kasidy's even like a scapegoat in a way, for Eddington. It's just she's just this really good focal point because of the relationship with Sisko that he can kind of do his dirty work on the side. Although in some ways though, I'm like, is it like all dirty work? I don't know. It's like, it's so good because it makes you question a lot of things. And it's clearly a pivotal point for Ben and Kasidy because they ultimately choose each other at the end of the day. So anyway, yeah, I mean, yes, top tier, like you said, like 10 out of 10.
Nicole, you're absolutely right. And what I love about that episode in particular, and it reflects back on Deep Space Nine, is that if you look at Deep Space Nine in particular of all Star Trek, all Deep Space Nine characters have arcs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? They all have arcs. So, and you can look at the perspective of everyone in that episode, Eddington's perspective, Kasidy's perspective. It's not like there's like necessarily a real right or wrong. I mean, Eddington has a point. Kasidy's trying to do the right thing. Sisko is a Starfleet captain. Odo's Odo's the constable. I mean, everyone is from their point of view, and Eddington is playing on a lot of things at the same time. So it's not like she's a scapegoat, but she is a good heart, and he's playing into that. So there's all those things happening, and it's just it's a crazy good episode. You're absolutely right.
It really is. And like you were saying with like the idea of like non-main cast members, like having like arcs and great moments too. Like this one has like multiple plots interwoven that just feel so seamless. Like we have like the Garrick stuff where Garrick and Bashir are just watching handball together. Like like that was fun. And like, Torres Zial, right? Like that whole like little subplot there too, like that's going on. But like like to what you're saying, Derek, like it was cool to see like everyone got to share, like got a moment where they almost got to monologue about their opinions on like where the Maquis are coming from.
Right.
And it was interesting because it's fitting with all their character, and you as the viewer, like some of the language that they use might feel a little uncomfortable, but it's like it kind of works from where they're coming from. And I think that's really cool. Like, and I think like that it's almost like a juxtaposition. In like the beginning, Sisko and Kasidy are like in bed together talking, and he says, "I'm a Starfleet captain. I'm a paragon of virtue."
yes.
Right.
And
right.
at the end, when like confronted with like Eddington's like point about like, I won't bother you if you won't bother us, and I've respected you as a captain, blah blah blah, but this is what we're doing. And then Sisko's like, I don't care, but you made it personal, and I'm coming after
Right.
you.
You know,
You know?
you basically you
Yeah.
used my personal relationship.
Yeah.
Come on, man. I'm putting you under the jail now.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
you know.
Like doesn't matter what point you make, even if the points you make are great, but like he's like, I'm coming for you.
I'm
Like that
coming
was
for you.
yeah, that was such a cool like way to like bookend the episode. I thought that was
Yeah.
really interesting.
And
Um
I'm sorry. Let me just ask though. It's not the episode at the beginning, like you said. They're in bed and she
Mhm.
leaves, and then he takes her pillow.
Yes.
Yeah,
Isn't
that's
that a
right.
great moment?
It really is. Yeah, he
It's
throws
a
his
real
own aside.
authentic moment because you
Oh,
know we've all done that, right? With a person we love, we're like, oh, they're gone, but I just want like to smell them and their
Yeah.
and the pillow, and it's you know,
He inhales. Yeah, he
right,
doesn't like.
right, you know. And I'm like, oh, that's so real. So yeah,
So sweet. Yeah.
Except those triangular shapes.
Oh, the triangle pillows.
triangle
Yeah, that's
pillow, right? I remember
Paper
that.
pillow.
yeah.
I remember that. Right.
Actually, it's not that weird. There are some interesting pillow
There are
shapes
there are
these
different
days,
like
but
cubes. Yeah, I don't know.
it is kind of funny though.
I did read that Ronald Moore said that the plan was not originally to have Kasidy Yates' character have that Maquis affiliation or that kind of like secret plot of like supplying the Maquis, but it came from a freelance writer who kind of pitched the idea.
Oh wow!
And they had kind of thought that they wanted to introduce some sort of conflict because they thought that the relationship was like going fine but sort of spinning wheels at that point.
Right.
And so they were sort of looking for something to do to sort of shake it up. There's a lot of quotes that we looked on. I found
They
on like
really
Memory
did.
Alpha, and I think that it's just like it was a really great way to do that. Like you were saying, like her heart, right? Like you could see like how that would lead her to do this, and like you just see like all these different perspectives where no one's really quite the bad guy.
Yeah, yeah, and beautifully performed by Penny Johnson,
Oh, yeah.
who played in my opinion, played a version of like Lady Macbeth on 24. Just like incredible acting chops, right? So,
Yeah.
and you needed someone strong when you're playing opposite Avery Brooks, right? Benjamin Sisko. So, you know, and she is also a captain. She's a captain of her ship, right?
Mhm.
So, you know, she's being manipulated, you know, and even the actor, I don't know his name, but the actor playing Eddington, it's like, oh man, you know, yeah, there's a lot going on here. You know, I think Eddington was a glory-seeking hound, but doesn't mean, you know, even a broken clock is right twice a day, right? So, you know, it's that kind of thing going on. So, great stuff.
Totally.
What did I just read about? I mentioned it to you. Oh yeah, the Eddington thing was sort of inspired, weirdly enough, by the Oklahoma City bombing.
Really?
Yeah. I don't remember the name of the person who kind of brought it up. I lost it on
Was it
Memory
Ron
Alpha.
Moore also?
No, it was
one of the writers.
It was someone else's kind of idea to take that, because initially afterwards, I mean, we were kids at the time, but before they knew who was responsible, anybody who was from the Middle East wasn't immediately up for suspicion. And then lo and behold, it's a homegrown
right.
white guy
Right.
who's responsible. And so kind of like the idea that, you know, the turncoat is, you know, someone you just would not expect. I think, you know, sort of a red herring in a way. Like, I mean, not that Kasidy was like the red herring, but like kind of for Sisko in a way. I mean, like,
Right.
again, she was actually like, you know, supplying the Maquis, but, you know, not quite from this like nefarious perspective, you know, just kind of like hidden under, you know, doing her thing. I mean, like, but Eddington, even though we can like understand where he's coming from, like, I mean, he like point blank like stuns Kira and,
Right.
you know, like,
Yeah.
Right.
clearly lies and leads everyone astray. So,
Yeah.
you know, whether his ends justified his means, you know, So
But
anyway,
no,
yeah.
you're absolutely right. I have a friend of mine that when he learned I was writing the autobiography, he had never watched Deep Space Nine. He said, "I'm going to watch all 7 seasons now."
Wow.
And he really actually helped because we would talk about episodes. So he watched it all. And when he was getting to the editing stuff, he said, "I don't know about this guy Eddington. He seems a little weird." I'm like, "I don't know." It's
Right, he's
like-
got good
Awesome.
intuition.
That's good.
But yeah, I guess that's kind of where like some of the inspiration came from, was just sort of the idea that it's not someone you're necessarily
right,
expecting to I don't know.
right. In your own, in your own
On your
your
home
own
soil.
team, member of
Yeah.
your own team.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I guess I also want to say like the moment where Sisko just kind of comes down before she leaves and he's like, let's just go to Risa.
Oh yeah.
That was a really good moment.
Didn't
Yeah.
that just, I'm sorry to interrupt you guys, but that just got me when he was, because for me, as a writer and as a fan, Benjamin Sisko has never been like, he never shows his vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And right then and there, he's saying, I'll put it all aside for a little bit. If you it wasn't begging, but it was like, please just, I don't want to believe this thing about you.
Mm-hmm.
I know this thing about you. I don't want to believe it. Let's just go to Risa. Let's just go. Because then I'll know, even if I'm right, I'm wrong. If you come with me, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, I can't do it." And he just, the whole face just changes, and it's like, it's a great episode.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah,
Mhm.
just like great acting moments. And then even the scene where they come back together, where she, after she drops off her crew, like basically comes back to just get arrested, just like to meet up with him again. Like that.
Right.
There's so many great moments.
Yeah.
So essentially what we find out is she gets like, I think she serves like a 6-month sentence and then rejoins the series back in season 5. I'm trying to see where if I have anything else. They did a few things from there. I feel like some highlights for me after that, like between that and Till Death. There was, of course, like the proposal that happened like an episode before that. We had the baseball episode. She's part of that. That's really fun. When they save Vic's bar, I think that's really fun. Like
one too.
those are some fun episodes that have them both doing stuff together. Like those are just like good fun episodes in general.
Yeah.
But I like all that. But then we get to like, I think Penumbra is where he proposes.
Right.
And then Till Death Do Us Part is the wedding. And that's where we get to, again, another like episode that throws a wrench in their relationship, where Sisko has the vision from the prophets that says, you are meant to walk this path alone. You should not, basically don't get married to Kasidy. And he like listens at first and he tries to call it off. So yeah.
2 things really quick. One, I liked that we sort of kind of woman she is when he's like in the episode Bada Bing, Bada Boom. He's like, "Okay, I'm gonna tell you this thing about this problem I have in 1950s. You can't tell anybody." Very next scene, she's telling the whole crew.
That's right.
Because she's like, I know he's a captain. I know all this stuff, but these people are his, work family. They need to know, So she makes that decision. She makes that call, and of course it's the right call, right?
Yeah.
And the second thing in Penumbra, how are you going to propose to a woman and then take that back? Woo! That was heavy.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Look, I'm not, you can't," basically saying, "You can't toy with my emotions like this. You can't tell me it's some wormhole mother. I don't really care. Either I'm with you or I'm not." And I felt that. I've never been to space, but I felt that because you can't take something like that. You're either all in or you're not in love and in relationships, so.
Yeah, agreed. That was heavy. And like, yeah, she sets the ring down on the table and leaves.
Yeah, it's a really powerful scene. I almost wished when he like comes back and is like, "I've changed my mind," or like, "Screw the prophets," or whatever. Like, I almost wish she would have resisted like a smidge more. But I don't know. Maybe it makes sense because she was all in, and that she would be like, "Okay, like you've come around to your senses." But I almost wanted like her to be like, "Excuse me."
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah.
Sir.
Right.
It's probably hard. This was another episode with like a million plots, though, right?
Oh my!
There was like
It was like
6
my head was
subplots.
spinning again. Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah, yeah. They
Just
were
like
wrapping
Ace
up
of Jupiter.
everything, and this was
right?
just, this train was moving, so you had to keep with, you know, you had to stay on it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It was really weird juxtaposed with the Gul Dukat and Kai Wynn stuff.
I
That
love.
started happening.
That's what I love about Deep Space Nine is the juxtaposition of love, right? Sincere love, right, as opposed to opportunity and lust,
Mm. Ooh, tell me
right?
more.
So,
yeah.
right. So you look at Cassidy and Ben and the Kai and Dukat, who
Mhm.
has now made himself look Bajoran,
Ugh,
right?
ugh.
It's just creepy upon nuts upon, right? But opportunity and lust, and it got to a point with them where Kai was like, okay, or
Yeah.
for power, okay, it's
Mhm.
creepy, it's nuts, but you know, maybe we can take over the galaxy, okay, nuts, you know,
No.
as
Mhm.
opposed to sincere love, you know, an honest relationship where two people working towards something, and you
Mhm.
see those bookends, and you're like, wow. So that's, you know, it was great. It was great to see that. Yeah.
It's really clever. And on top of that, too, we also have the like really messy
Oh my
Worf
god.
Esri stuff
Yeah.
going on
Oh,
there, where they're like captured by the Breen, like
After they got
super
together.
messy.
super
Yeah.
messy. That's a great term.
yeah.
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 Yeah. Lots of all that. Yeah. Anything like involving the Trill and like, you know, love. We talked about that Jadzia episode not too long
Rejoined.
ago.
Right.
Rejoined. We talked about that was a really interesting one, but this is like a different, like almost like where, the person your previous host loved wants you still, but then you kind of don't. And
Right.
oh yeah, that was,
There
yeah,
was some
it's,
weird stuff going on.
You know what I love about that is like when you talk about love, like Worf has never been good with emotions, right? He's never been good with a lot of things. Wasn't a good father, wasn't a good with emoting, you
yeah.
know. And then he met Jadzia, this individual who had, you know, been both genders, 7 lifetimes. And in a lot of ways, I always felt like Jadzia Dax was very patient with him because he was so much younger, even though she's like, you know, I guess like what, in her late 20s, early 30s, but she's much younger. She was patient with him and rounded him all off, you know?
Yeah.
And begrudgingly, he didn't want to admit it, but he really needed Jadzia.
Yeah.
You know, here's a ship that has no compass, you know, a battleship out there, and wherever you point him, he will go, but he has no compass. And she was his true north. She was his compass. She was his anchor. She was all these things. And when she was gone, he you know, he lost it. He goes to Vix. He's tearing up Vix, you know, and then Esri, you know, then Jadzia dies. You know, Esri is the new Dax, and Esri doesn't know who she is, and she's feeling all these things about Worf, and you got two people trying to figure it out. And I really liked that because relationships are often messy,
Yeah.
you know, and even in the beginning, sometimes relationships are messy, and sometimes people are like, oh, we can't figure it out, we break up. But sometimes people, you know, work it out. They decided, oh, this is not for us, but we had to try and see what was happening. And I like that, you know, they at least tried it and realized that's not who they were anymore, you know.
Right. Which also like again feels like a very real emotion despite being like very like wonky sci-fi stuff of like multiple lives. Like
Yeah.
it works like metaphorically.
Right.
Yeah, in so many ways. But
Yeah.
yeah. I do you have any other thoughts on Till Death?
Oof. I don't know. We both were like really. It was really interesting once the wedding scene, which ultimately is like I feel like 3 minutes long.
Right.
With Kira, because like
Oh yeah.
Sisko confides in Kira about what the prophets have said, and so it's very interesting to get her perspective on it because she being Bajoran and her
Right.
love of the prophets and you know having that you know faith in them. And she's like, yeah, well, I mean, sorry, man. Like, I don't know. It was interesting because, like, I feel like he went to her because if she was like, oh, man, yeah, I almost feel like you could see it on his face. Like, when Kira supports what the prophets have told him, like, it was not what he wanted to hear. Like, I think
Right.
he was hoping that Kira was going to be like, Oh, whoa, yeah. Like, let's take a step back. That's a really weird thing for them to like tell you to not do. But she's like, well, they know best. And
Kira
so it was
is, yeah. Look,
wild.
Kira's always going to support what the prophets say. Kira is a better Kai than the Kai,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Which, is nuts, but that's what the writers are showing us,
Yeah.
And you talk about someone dealing with love. I mean, Kira and Barial, that's nuts because,
Yeah, that's right.
she falls in love with this priest, and then he has this accident, and Kai Wynn literally uses him up until they're taking pieces of him so that she can have this negotiation, and so that she can become Kai. And I remember watching that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, man, and then you just see chunks of Kira just like losing parts of herself as this guy is becoming less and less human, because her love for Barial, But Kira has always loved Bajor.
Yeah.
And then through, Bajor the prophet. So she's always going to side with the prophets, right? So you're right. Ben didn't really want to hear that, but I think he needed to hear that perspective. But, and she's not happy at the wedding. I remember
No.
she's like, 'cause she would always clap like this, and she's like, and I think Odo doesn't care because Odo to him is all like it's all weird, and he said something like, I haven't seen
Usually
this
I'm the
episode in a
one
while, but
has to get you to smile, or no, usually you're trying to get me to smile or something.
right, and she's like, oh, I hope like basically I hope the prophets are benevolent because she's like, oh, you're tempting fate. You're tempting
Yeah.
fate, man, for love. I wouldn't do it, but go right ahead. So
Yeah. It
great
was
stuff.
really interesting. I just wanted to point that out because it was
It's great. It's a great point you made. It's a great point.
well, because we talked, at least in previous episodes that we've talked about and recorded, we talk a lot about the Jadzia and Sisko relationship. And now that, because Jadzia is gone at this point, right? And so seeing Sisko turn to like the relationship that him and Kira have developed, like not only like her relationship with the prophets, but also like she's this confidant too. So
Right.
it was interesting to kind of see someone like a trusted friend like that kind of be like, I know what you want, but maybe it's not the best thing for you.
Maybe it's not. Right.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But that's a good friend, though, right? A
Yeah.
good friend tells you the hard thing, And I often say I'd rather hear what's it say, the ugly truth than the beautiful lie, right?
Yeah,
So,
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, those kinds of like conversations were always like a highlight of Deep Space Nine. Like when Sisko used to have those with Jadzia a lot too.
A lot, right?
Like those kinds of hard conversations was always great. With regards to like Sisko Kasidy, after this we have she gets pregnant, right? And a couple episodes down the road,
right.
she'll relearn that. One of the interesting things I was doing research on this is that they shot with regards to the finale, when Sisko like joins the Celestial Temple or like leaves his corporeal form in a sense, like apparently they'd shot it, and it was, according to this article that I read, it was a Screen Rant. Avery Brooks, like after the fact, was like, I want to go back and reshoot a scene where I do appear to Kasidy and say that I will be back.
Right.
They wanted to make sure that was put in there so that there wasn't just like he was like, peacing out in the Celestial Temple or like gone for good, to like avoid some
abandoning his family.
Exactly. He didn't want that
Right.
pervade that stereotype and stuff too.
Right. And to be fair, I don't really think, because I've heard this story from the perspective of Ira Stephen Bear on a podcast, and they were just thinking about the mythology and the character. And when Avery Brooks brought that to their point, they were like, oh yeah, that kind of thing. And it's a really, now we look at that scene, and it was gut wrenching to watch it, when it happened. But it's a really necessary scene. He's like, I could be back tomorrow, or I could be back yesterday, and she just sighs. Because what does that mean for her? What does that mean when you meet the love of your life and they don't pass away? There's some place, and they still love you. You still love them. They want to come back. You want to be with them. They want to be with you, but no one knows when. And so she just sighs, And I felt that, and I tried to convey some of that in the book, and he never speaks to Jake. If we're talking about love, also at the end of the last episode, he never speaks to Jake. So that's one of the things I wanted to like rectify. One of the first things he does is speak and send that message to Jake.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
love
a
that.
it's great, but it's sad at the same time.
I just feel like Sisko deserves all the happiness for all the crap he's been through. So I just want Sisko to be happy. Anyway.
I feel like a lot of characters in Star Trek, I mean, maybe not a lot, but like more than you'd expect, have to deal with like people real close to them becoming non-corporeal, not dying.
That
but
is
like,
a huge risk in
like Wesley and like Mabenga's daughter,
Yeah.
right? Like it's
Oh,
happened
right,
more
right,
than
right,
just a
right.
couple times.
Right.
It's true.
Yeah, it's
Right.
something I guess it's something you got to watch out for in Star Trek, right?
Yeah, yeah. Things happen to people, right? So yeah.
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 When you were writing the book, I don't know, you didn't like go past the time when he like theoretically could come back from the Celestial Temple, but there has been like lit verse stuff. Like I think the previous lit verse prior to like Picard coming out, like had him captaining the USS Robinson. He came back and had like a family, and like they had the daughter was Rebecca in that universe. I remember reading.
Right.
But there's like a new continuity now that like Star Trek Picard's come out, and like that old novelverse continuity isn't around anymore. But the comics. Have you read any of the comics?
Yep. And they brought him back too. Yeah.
Yeah, they brought him back like 3 years after that, and he has a daughter. I think it's Sarah, right? In this one, yeah. And but like him and Jake are going on the adventure. So that I like the implication that most people writing and like creating Star Trek, like working with Sisko, like imply he's not gone for too long, at least.
I would hope not.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like what the lit verse and the comics have done. I really like it a lot. I had a decision where I could have done that. I could have brought him back. But I didn't because I figured this was for the 30th anniversary of Deep Space Nine. And not knowing what's going to happen on screen, if in some version Avery Brooks will come back or Paramount will have another individual play the character or something, I wanted to leave it where the autobiography would still link up with whatever happens on screen. So when he comes back, everything still links with the autobiography. He still hasn't come back yet.
Yeah.
And it would make sense, so.
Kudos. I feel like it'd be really hard for me if I was writing something like that to not be like, I'm just going to have Sisko do what I want.
What I want, right? Right. Yeah.
So I guess that's why I'm not a writer.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we always do on the Deep Space Love podcast, whenever we talk about a romance or a love story, we always give it a rating based on a rating scale that we created for this. And I will outline it for you, Derek, and for the fans listening if it's been a while since the new year, they haven't heard it. It's a 5-point scale. Starting at the bottom of the barrel is what we call a red alert, which means the relationship was quite toxic. No, it's all good. They're meant for laughs. Relationship was bad, toxic. We have a yellow alert, which is a slight step up, not a very good relationship.
I'm going to use this for like my relationship.
It's great, right? No, it works. It works. Yeah. Middle of the road is like fascinating. We're kind of like, okay, it's all right. We don't know where it's going to go. Could be good. Could be not so good.
Right.
Like the relationship quite a bit is a fully functional. And finally, a resistance is futile is too hot to handle.
Wow.
Yes. So we always ask at the end of the love story conversation, where does this relationship, in this case, Ben Sisko, Kasidy Yates, fall on our 5-point scale? And we can let you think for a bit since you're new to this. But Nicole, why don't you start us off?
I feel like we tend to put things in the end buckets. I think I'm going to put Sisko and Kasidy in a fully functional.
I am fully functional.
I don't think we use that one very often, but I feel like they clearly they're great together. We've been talking about it this entire episode. But I also think, they definitely had some like real kinks to kind of iron out. And kind of, find their way. And not that that's like bad. They're fully functional, right? Like they're doing it. But I don't know. I guess, I don't know. I really want to throw in a dash of resistance is futile. I guess they couldn't really resist each other very much, but I don't know. What do you think?
Me? Mom?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I'll go next. I was going to give it a high end of the resistance is futile I'm sorry, high end of the fully functional is what I meant.
I am fully functional.
Okay.
High end of the
so
fully
we're like in
functional.
the same spot.
We are in the same place. I was like, I mean, I think it's a really good relationship. I think it's really strong, really powerful. I think there's messiness to it, but I think that messiness works really well.
Yeah.
I like it. It's not perfect. I don't know if I'm like always at the point where it's like steaming in that way of a resistance of futile is how I think of it. But I just think it's a really sweet and like meaningful and powerful relationship in a lot of ways. Solid.
Yeah, you know?
The sort of like leaving at the end for the Celestial Temple stuff sometimes feels like a little wrench for me.
Yeah.
But I get it. It's part of the mythology, part of what has to happen. But I really love this relationship. It's like an anchor of the show. Yes. I love both these actors. I love Penny Johnson-Gerald. I was really happy to see her in the Orville. Like glad she's still doing stuff like that. I mean, she was like a really big part of that show in a lot of ways. But I'm so happy we finally got to do this relationship. It's really fun to talk about.
I love that the two hosts that are married both say fully functional. That's so dope.
We agree more often than we don't.
I have a question. What's the one after Yellow Alert?
Fascinating.
Fascinating. So here's my take. I think it started out the gate fascinating.
Fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think it went backwards. I think it went Yellow Alert.
Yellow Alert.
Yellow.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
And then I think it went Red Alert when the whole Eddington and,
Yeah.
And then I think they realized, even though we had these problems, we're in love. We're in love. And we need to try and figure a way to overcome this. So it went from fascinating, Yellow Alert, Red Alert, and then went all the way back to fully functional.
I am fully functional.
All right. I like
That's
that.
My take, yeah.
It's a journey, right?
It's a journey.
Yeah.
Love is, right? Love is a journey.
Love is a journey. Very true. Wow, good answer.
Mm-hmm. Our guest always throws something new into it, and I love it.
I know that everyone thinks about it differently, and I love that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not just a discrete category.
That's a great though. But I think some of my relationships have been Yellow Alert.
Right.
This is great. I love this.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I know. It's actually kind of fun when we do an episode that's like a Red Alert relationship because they get real messy.
Right.
Yeah.
Like B'Elanna and Paris, definitely Yellow Alert from the start.
Yeah.
Right. And
we did that one too, yeah.
Right. But then it moved, like almost begrudgingly moved to like fully functional,
Yeah, right.
So we
did a few one-off episodes. We did the one where Paris falls in love with that like shuttle that tries to take him over.
Right.
That was a Red Alert. Yeah.
Right.
That was a fun one.
Yeah.
So Derek, you were telling me too before this that you kind of like have this thesis about like Deep Space Nine on the whole, like how love is such like a core feature of this show. Would you want to like tell me more about your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, Joe. Yeah, I think family and love are like some of the core themes, or two of the core themes of Deep Space Nine. There's so many versions of love, right? Love of your fellow man, love of yourself, right? Let's look at Dukat and love of himself.
Yeah.
Right? And just,
love of your enemy.
Love of your enemy. There's just so many variations and themes of love of duty. There's just so much going on. Like Worf could not see past his honor, the love of that, the love of being that, until Ezri was like, your people are all corrupt. And let's just be honest with it, man. And by her telling him that, got him to do what he needed to do with Gowron, right? So there's a lot of versions of love going on in Deep Space Nine. And I think from the first episode, we're introduced to a man, Benjamin Lafayette Sisko, that has figured out something that's very difficult in Starfleet. He's figured out how to have a life and work, because Star Trek shows us, right or wrong. It shows us most captains can't have both.
Yeah.
Right? And
Mhm.
he's figured it out, and then that's ripped away from him, and he's just a mess when we meet him.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's that loss of love as well. So there's so many versions of love happening throughout the 7 years of Deep Space Nine. You know, there's Quark, you know, and his love with I can't remember the Klingon woman, you know, and
Grilka.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
you know, there's just so many different versions of love on Deep Space Nine, and they're all, well, not they're all, but most of them are right versions, you know. Jadzia, having been a man and a woman, it's okay. It's okay to just love, you know. When she meets the three Cleons from the TOS
Oh
era,
yeah.
and they're like, Kurazan, my old friend, and she's like, oh no, I'm Jadzia now. They're like, oh, Jadzia, my old friend. You know, it's love, right?
Yeah.
And that's what Deep Space Nine, I think, has more than any other Star Trek series, is this commentary about love and how love is abused and how love is treasured, and what it says about in a whole about love, if that makes sense, you know.
Yeah, and even like love of religion,
Right.
and you know, and how that shapes, you know, or yeah. I was thinking about that because that's such a core element of the show, more so than any of the others.
Right.
And or
You
love
know?
of faith, maybe.
Love of
I don't know.
faith, yeah.
I don't know if love of religion necessarily as
Yeah.
much as like
No.
love of faith and like yeah.
Odo
Well,
lets go of the love of his home for the
Yeah.
family that he has. The family, there's a
Mhm.
message there about the family you're born into and the family that you create, right? Because the family
Yeah.
he's born into is pretty messed up. They're trying to take over the whole galaxy, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Yeah.
they've got a huge trauma from themselves being persecuted. So they're going to like, well, we're going to just take it all over, if you know. And he's like,
Yeah.
I love you guys, but you know, that's nuts. So he goes to the family he's made. You know, it's a lot of versions of love in this show, and I think we don't always really realize it because we're looking at other themes. But love is so powerful in Deep Space Nine.
Agreed. And there's much more of a family element to Deep Space Nine. I think like a lot of the other shows get to it eventually, especially in that era of Trek.
Right.
But like Next Gen doesn't really approach that until the end, whereas I feel like Deep Space Nine seemed to set out with like creating that from the start.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It took a
Absolutely.
while for it to warm up, but
Yeah. I mean, just Jake and Ben,
yes.
you know, and Nog and Jake,
Yeah.
right? I mean, look at that love affair as friends. You know, it's weird to me, me being a straight heterosexual male, is weird to me how many straight heterosexual males can't say, "Oh, I love you" to another guy. Just love is love, you know. And Jake and Nog love each other, you know, and Sirach and Aaron loved each other and still love each other. You know, it's love is love. And I remember that scene where Jake is teaching Nog how to read.
Yeah.
There's so much love in this show, you know, or when Nog goes to Sisko and he's like, look, I love my father. I love him. I don't want to be him.
Yeah.
I need to go to Starfleet. I need to. And Ben is like, wow, you know, and he realizes, oh, wow, I've looked at this individual wrong. I'm going to give this kid a shot. You know, there's all kinds of love going on in Deep Space Nine. So
Yeah, it's a great show.
it's a great
It's
show.
so cool. Yeah.
Amazing.
It's a great show.
Thank you for sharing those thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you so much for, I mean, this conversation was awesome.
Thank you
fun.
both. Yeah, this has been one of the most fascinating and interesting
I love it.
and interesting conversations, because we're looking at this through a whole different lens that we don't always look at. And I think your show does that in a really beautiful and interesting way. So thank you for inviting me on.
Well,
Thanks.
you.
Yeah. Well, honestly, the invitation is open. Like we say this to all our guests, but like truly, like whenever, if you ever like think of like, oh man, that love story or that romance or that like element of love, like I want to talk more about that. Like It's a place to go.
I
Okay.
feel like we need to branch out this year. Like now that we're talking about Sisko and Jake a lot, I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I really
We gotta
want
do
to dig
family ones
into
too,
like
yeah.
parent-child, like love in
Mm.
Star Trek, because there's a lot to unpack
I
there.
know.
Ugh.
Yeah.
And there's like I tell a lot of people like joke about Kirk, and Kirk is like, having, romps with every alien woman. And I'm like, you don't understand Kirk. Kirk doesn't care about physical relationships. He cares about emotional relationships.
Mhm.
That's his
Mhm.
love.
Yeah.
He doesn't
Yeah.
understand how to love physically. Physical love is not Kirk. Emotional love. That's why he left his captaincy and stole a ship to go get his friend.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, anytime you guys want, I'm happy to talk about love. Because love is another aspect of Star Trek. So,
It
Yeah.
really is, yeah.
Yeah.
But before we close out, is there any projects you wanted to plug or throw out that you're working on, or anything people want to find you someplace?
Oh yeah, thank you. I just finished a short story. Arthur Conan Doyle meeting Harry Houdini for the first time.
Ooh.
It's very interesting. It's called the what is it called? I just wrote it. What is it called? The Unspoken Rule. And it's coming out. It's coming out later this month, actually. I'll be posting about it. It's by Independent Press. And my show, of course, Solve the Story.
Yep.
We start next month for book 2, which is season 2. So that's going to be fun. And I could be found pretty much anywhere on social media at D Attico, Dattico. Blue Sky, the site formerly known as Twitter, Facebook, Insta, all those good places.
Awesome. Yes, everyone, please go and keep an eye on what Derek's doing.
Please.
And to everyone listening, thank you again to listening to another episode of Deep Space Love. You can find us online as well at DS Love Pod on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. So give us a follow if you like what you're hearing. And if you really like what you hear, rate and review wherever you're listening. We're excited to, get through to start 2025 and
Get through.
get
Slip
through.
that.
Wow. This will be a pleasant part of 2025.
Yes.
Looking forward to it.
Yes.
So stay tuned. And until next time, love long and prosper.